Okay, I'll read a couple poems that I've written since the pandemic started. This one I wrote in April 2020 when I thought we were in the middle of the pandemic. I've since changed the title. So this is called At the Beginning of the Pandemic. I keep typing power flu when I mean to type powerful. So powerful, the free opera streams. So powerful, the Navy ship treading to Manhattan, my students inventing words. After when, Light Marsh, one renames herself Golden Bird. And I am thinking of you, lost friend, you in the new Pacific mountains and the wrought iron herb garden. You for whom love is grief, and truth a weapon you hand the enemy. Barbed like the spores of a virus, infectious and exponential. Will I ever touch you again? A biologist calls me asking for meaning. I write in my garage until a neighbor pulls down the door. Who am I to exist? By what right? We're all going to catch it eventually, you say, and I want to take your head in my hands. I was supposed to be wiser, but this notion of deserving, to live, to breathe easy. After when I find my soul again, after when I know what to say. Oh you, oh dear one, oh precious careful salve. You for whom love is a demand, whose name is an incantation, you whose name I cannot say at all. The letter planes are all grounded, and in this long Sabbath month, what words do we utter but prayer? So I've been thinking a lot about my yard this past year because that's kind of the extent to which I can explore my environment. And so this next poem is about gardening, trying to keep plants alive while also trying to keep a very young infant alive. And all these things have gotten me thinking a lot about death. So this poem has an epigraph by Zhai Yangming that says, "All who have stood in a mother's hand are sure to die because they were born." Quiescence. Between us bobs the baby, solemn in her infant wetsuit. The pool is the only place where screaming does not indicate terror. The neighbors' pansy beds, oh, to lie down in those beds and doze. Greener than grass, says Sappho, originator of envy. My sleep is pollinated by the baby's wails, dreams sprouting voices in peril, mind sped up and emaciated like a greyhound in the track. The end of growth is death. The painting begins with a scribble, or is a scribble the finishing touch? Call your plants by their names, 10,000 words a day. We feed, we weed, we read her books about owls. What am I minding but stillness? What have I grown except loss? This next poem is also about my lawn. It's called Reading 13 Ways of Looking at a Blackbird to the Dead Blackbird on My Lawn. To call down the gods in their town cars, to alert the sky of its failures, to do myself a kindness, to stuff the soft feathers in my mouth, to gaze through the flies at the open eye, to find the body both graceful and clumsy, to erase the corpse by describing it, to etch the corpse in pen, to harbor the corpse in my arms, to reach my quota of lies, to cast a spell on my lover, to tell myself a story, to put something back where I found it, which is not to say I returned it. I'll just read you two more poems here. The first is another poem about parenting in the pandemic. And the 8 o'clock howls that get mentioned in the middle are from back at the beginning of the pandemic when we would all go outside our houses and howl every night at 8 p.m. as a sign of solidarity. So this poem is about my 2-year-old and it's called Constitutional. Where girl newly walking stumbles in her Velcro shoes toward the zombie tulips, awakened Jesus style for 1 week only. Uh-oh, she says as she dumps her plastic eggs again. Uh-oh, she mutters, replacing them one at a time. The 8 o'clock howls wake her nightly from her toddler dreams. Baby Bell cheese and a dog-eyed view from the stroller. or nightmares. A glass she is not permitted to touch, a gate between her and the kitty's tail. O child of the quarantine, comforted only by sticking your whole arm down my beer glass, what delights will transfigure you today? What new words will you swallow whole? And I'll close with a poem that I wrote for the graduating class of 2020, my students who didn't get to have their graduation last year in 2020. And so I'll just go ahead and dedicate it to the graduating English majors of 2021 this time around. Commencement. When once we would have gathered on the grass in the champagne sun, when once I would have embraced you in our awkward medieval robes, when once I would have looked in your eyes and told you to cease now calling me professor, what I offer instead are words, though not merely, for haven't we feasted on this meal together, coaxing meaning off a page? Were we not made family by language or the hope of what it contains? Words the shortest way home, moonflowers lining life's paths, looking on tempests unshaken. I see you now, graduates, through the screen of my window, the window of my screen. You are weathered as today's snow, bright as tomorrow's sun. I have never loved you more. Dear ones, we taught you to save the world, not knowing how soon we'd need it. The future comes not kindly, but is coming nonetheless. Beloveds, as you sail through this to that, fill anew your paper with the breathings of your heart. With your own two hands, you have built worlds and philosophies. Let me borrow from them now. Let me inhabit your hope, and let me be your student, learning again the lesson you taught me first 4 years ago. You, perched in the back of my classroom, believing that words can mean, believing so well in belief. Thank you.